My maid was talking to a wall, and I don't think she was hallucinating. Posted by Hai Jepang. I used to live in Indonesia before migrating to the States. And I remember this one thing that really scared me back then. I was probably 7 or 8 years old about that time, so I guess I can't blame myself if it was just my overactive mind and I was just scaring myself. But here's the story. We had a stay-at-home maid at the time, which I think is a pretty common thing in there. My mom would hire some random maid, and they'd live at our house and get paid until they leave for any reason. We had a couple of them over the span of me growing up, but this one maid is the reason why I'm writing this. My family loved her because she was just an overall good person and helped my mom with daily tasks a lot. One of those tasks being to wake me up for school on school days. Usually I'd wake up to her calling my name a couple of times, and then I'd get ready. But this one day, I woke up to her voice like she was having a conversation with someone, but it was just her voice. I don't know what she was saying since I just woke up, but I know she wasn't calling my name. And the thing that scared me was when I opened my eyes. I saw that she had her back turned towards me, facing the wall. She kept talking to the wall until I called her, and then she turned around and acted as if I didn't just see her talk to the wall. Then she got me ready for school. When I asked her who she was talking to, she said it was nothing and that she was singing or something. I don't remember if I believed her at that time, but I do know that same night I couldn't fall asleep because I was so scared. And it didn't help that my bed position makes me face that same wall. So I told my mom, but she was a Christian and just told me to pray and sleep. That instance only happened once, and I've never woken up to my maid talking to the wall again. Eventually that maid left because of family reasons not too long after, so my mom had to hire a new one. It wasn't even that long before that new maid left. I overheard her pleading with my mom to let her go because she was so scared living in her house. She said when she tries to sleep, she would hear whispers next to her. Her door would swing open by itself sometimes when she's in the room. Or she would hear someone knock her door at times, where we'd all be fast asleep already. But the thing that scared me the most from her experience is when we left her to guard the house alone while my family went to the market to get groceries. She said she kept hearing a lady's voice or something that sounded like my mom coming from our room upstairs while she watches TV downstairs. This reminded me of the last maid when she was talking to the wall, and this got me shaking. I don't remember sleeping with the lights off ever again after that. Even until now, I still leave the light on. Anyways, I think my mom got concerned for that maid at the time because she was hysterically crying while telling her all those stories. So she let her go back to her family. Nothing strange happened again with the maids after her, but I developed a thing where I prayed every night before I slept since I was scared. What a terrible time. I still get chills thinking about it. Too long, didn't read, stay at home. Maid number 1 was talking to a wall and she probably had schizophrenia, if it wasn't for stay-at-home maid number 2 being haunted by spookies. Ghost that haunted my dreams as a toddler. Posted by Reddit is Fine. I've briefly talked about this experience on Reddit before, but I felt like using this subreddit to really go in depth about what I experienced when I was a toddler, from around 1 to 3 years old. When I was little, I used to have really bad nightmares. They were so bad that I'd wake up in the middle of the night screaming like I was being murdered. At one point, it got so bad that my parents actually called 911 because they weren't even sure if I was breathing or not. What were the nightmares about? Being so young is pretty hard to remember, but I can recall 2 of these nightmares. In the first one, I was at my grandparents' house, playing with a toy on the floor while my grandma was doing something in the kitchen. Then their dog barked from the other side of the house. I heard my grandma yell, "Hey!" at the dog. As soon as that happened, everything went quiet. I looked up from the toy to see a tall, shadowy figure where my grandma was moments before. It just stood there, staring at me. It didn't have any distinguishable features. It was like I was staring at the shadow of a tall, skinny person. The second one is a lot shorter, but it's the one I remember the most. I was in my crib at night when I heard something from the doorway. I looked over to see the exact same shadowy figure staring directly at me from the doorway. I don't remember any of the other night terrors I had when I was a kid, but I'm sure they all involved this thing. It got to the point where I was terrified of shadows and loud noises. I understand why I was afraid of shadows, but for the life of me, I can't explain where the fear of loud noises came from. Maybe it had something to do with the fact that my grandma shouted at her dog right before the shadow person showed up. Maybe it had nothing to do with those nightmares at all. I really don't know. Normally, I wouldn't be concerned by this. For all I know, I saw something like this on TV when I was little and had nightmares about it. I wouldn't even consider it a paranormal experience if my mom hadn't seen the same thing I had. She came home late one night to find the entire apartment dark. Assuming my dad had just left for work, she walked towards her bedroom, which was at the end of the hallway and across from mine. That's when she saw the tall, shadowy figure at the end of the hall in front of my bedroom. At first, she assumed it was my dad, so she got mad at it for scaring the heck out of her. But the figure didn't move. She reached behind her to turn on the light, and the figure vanished. She told me about this years later, and my dad backs up the claim, since he recalls getting a panicked phone call from my mom saying there was a ghost in the apartment. And that's where it ends. A few years later, we moved out of the apartment, and I never experienced anything to do with that shadow ever again. Ever since then, I always sleep with the hallway light on, because I'll never forget the feeling of absolute terror I had when I saw that shadowy figure staring at me from the doorway. Vardøger, Scandinavian Spirit Encounter, posted by Buddy Wrench. Okay, so backstory. I am currently serving in the Norwegian army, and all our barracks are fairly old and in need of renovation. The bathroom consists of one small sink and 4 bathroom stalls. Late night, around midnight, I head out of my bed to use the toilet. All the bathroom stalls are unoccupied, so I just randomly chose one. After a while, somebody comes in, sits down next to me, sneezes, and it sounds like they're ripping paper off the toilet roll. After that, it gets quiet. I can't hear anybody leaving, so I carefully angle my phone so I can take a picture of the stall next to me. And to my surprise, there is no one sitting there. I get kind of freaked out, but assume it's just me being tired and imagining things. As I'm getting ready to open my stall door and leave, someone enters, sits down in the stall next to me, sneezes, and uses the toilet paper. This time, I angle my camera carefully again, and this time someone is sitting there. In Scandinavia, we have this thing called Vardøger. Vardøger typically includes instances that are nearly déjà vu in substance, but in reverse, where a spirit with the subject's footsteps, voice, scent, or appearance and overall demeanor precedes them in a location or activity, resulting in witnesses believing they've seen or heard the actual person before the person physically arrives. Do you think this, in fact, was a Vardøger? Or is there another paranormal explanation?